Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of Walking with the Master. As you already know, if you've been with us for a while, that Walking with the Master is dedicated to my teacher, Dr. Moses Powell, and our walking with him. But I have had the pleasure to know so many people, but I have not known I've only known a few people as it relates to how many Dr. Moses Powell, Musa Muhammad has known. And this is another a gentleman, a brother who is, I'm telling you, he is someone that as you listen to what we're getting ready to go into and about this man here, he is a wealth of information. He's a wealth of knowledge. And he is a bad man as well. And I'm speaking of Grandmaster Shaheed, Grandmaster Shaheed, and he's going to talk to you, and we're going to share some things where he's going to say more about himself. And I want you all to know something. I want you to know something, and that is that I'm here. I wish somebody else was interviewing him. Why? Because I am a student in terms of for knowledge, and he has so much, so I have to now get myself together because I'm going to have to ask questions, and I'm going to be inundated with the wisdom and knowledge that he has. So welcome, my brother. How are you?
Fine praises due to Allah, brother. And I must say it is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be in your presence and the audience presence. And I pray that I will give something that will enlighten us all. And I must also give the salutation in the name of Allah, who came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, in the name of his Christ and divine servant, messenger, and apostle to us all, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and of course his divine spiritual son, in the name of Master Farah Muhammad's spiritual son as well, minister, divine leader, and teacher, and warner to all nations of us all, none other than Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet you all in the greeting words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Grandmaster Shaheed, I want to start off as I normally start off, and that is I speak about going to the root. And when we talk about going to the root, going to the beginning, and now, of course, when we talk about going to the beginning, and that is as far as you go, I'd like you to kind of go through your beginnings, how martial arts came into the picture with you. And there's so many other things that I'm going to ask you about, that's incredible, and many other things. And I definitely want to get into your relationship, your knowledge, your view of Dr. Moses Powell when we get there. But please share with me some of your beginnings in the martial arts.
Well, I started the martial arts at the age of 9 years old here in Henderson, North Carolina. And you may say, well, how did you get started there? There was no school. Well, at that time, I was a member of the Cottonley Moore Presbyterian Church. And my grandfather was a scoutmaster who was raised by my grandparents. And there was a missionary program, a missionary from Korea, Master Kim, well, he was Pastor Kim, rather. And he came for a year to stay with our pastor, who lived across the street from me. And he had a little son named Kim. And I used to watch him from my kitchen window in the mornings in the backyard. He was training his son kicking, and I used to watch him. And then little Kim, he was 5 and I was 9. His son was actually my first teacher because his dad didn't let him go around many people, very sheltered the son. And he was able, by being across the street, and I was the only one in the church that he felt comfortable with, and he would come over to my house, and at that time, we could leave our windows open. He would climb through my window, jump, we would wrestle and play, and he taught me some things in the arts. He was my first teacher. Then his father allowed me to come in at different sessions they would have, and that got my wheels a turning. And when they left after that year, I stayed true to practicing, using my hands, conditioning my hands, and I don't know, but it was just a spirit that stayed with me to stay with the art. You know, a lot of people ask me today, you still teaching? Oh, why not? Yes, I am. Yes, of course. I'll be 72 in a couple of weeks. Praise be to the Lord. I'm teaching
Praise to
classes,
Allah.
four classes a week, and I'm just got a new student yesterday when you called. They were coming in then, and riding my bike at least 30, 40 miles a week. So keeping in shape, following the Messages Diet program. So yes, sir, brother. That's how I got started and still going. Yes, sir.
Yes. So Mr. Kim was teaching you. What was that he was teaching?
Well, it was basically Kempo karate, okay? And because that was Kempo, and I think it was what's the other one? Taekwondo, which was more common out of Korea at
Yeah.
that time. And so he was teaching me the arts of blocks and few forms and kicks and basic the basics, you know. So like I said, his son was my first teacher. Then I left from there and I went to Fayetteville State University after I got out of high school, and I studied with the instructors there and got a brown belt in judo. And I moved from there. The following year, went to the University of Pittsburgh, where I studied Ishinryu karate. Got my black belt in Ishinryu karate. And so, matter of fact, let me regress a little bit. In 1968, when I was still studying and training, I was able to meet Bruce Lee in Washington, D.C. at the Carter Burn Theater, which the first time I met him, he was doing a tour. He was a character of the Green Hornet weekly TV series. And I had a busload of students because I was working between colleges at this program funded by the government called Change Incorporated, working with the youth in an impoverished community after the riots. So we got a free bus, DC Transit, to go down to the Carter Burn to see this guy, the Green Hornet. Well, I must say I was impressed, and I went to the side stage and I gave him his props, and he looked at me and gave me that thumbs up and told me to keep teaching my youth, and I said, yes, sir. So I bonded with him. I felt a spiritual bond. So I went back, and all the kids were excited about meeting the Green Hornet. That was a very pivotal point. That kind of solidified my wanting to be in the arts even more.
Yes.
So
yes.
That was a very important point. Yes, sir.
That's excellent. Excellent. And so from your studying, I mean, because you're mentioning several styles of martial arts you're moving through and you're touching and you're capturing information. From there, what happened? What was the progression from that point?
Well, from that point, when I left Pittsburgh, well, before I left Pittsburgh, I did a year in Nigeria at the University of Ile-Ife at that time. And over there, I was teaching a lot of the youth and even some of the students. So I always had a teaching thing about teaching and training. And even when I was in Pittsburgh, my first teaching job was with the Homewood Bristol YMCA, which is a Black community in Pittsburgh, YMCA. I taught there. And then from there, my second teaching job was in, of course, Nigeria with the youth there. Even taught them how to swim because they didn't know how to swim. Was a lack of swimming skills. I was able to get into the pool because we were banned as students not to go to the swimming pool area. So me and a friend of mine who's named Eddie Red from Brandeis University at that time, we walked a mile down to the teacher's compound, climbed the chain link fence, jumped into the pool, and the people, like, they were mostly Caucasians, you know, they looked and said, you know, they were shocked. They got out the pool. So this brother came over. He was a British, he was like a servant. He came over in the white long socks and white bucks and short white pants, white. He said, you must get out the pool now. I said, no, brother, I'm in the motherland. I come here to enjoy it. He went, came, did it a couple of times. So finally, this little British professor came over with a little goatee, wide rim glasses. He said, I say the old chap. I said, I say the old chap to you. How are you? Where are you from? I said, well, welcome to my motherland. You know, so he said, yes. So eventually, he invited us over to the little compound, which was a shelter where they were serving drinks and food. And back then we were hot. thirsty. So he had the same guy who came over to get us out, the little brother from the motherland. He ended up waiting on us,
Yeah.
serving us drinks and food. And he couldn't understand. So that brought along a teaching skill again to teach some of the people in the village how to swim, some of the youth there, and also start teaching some of the youth in the villages martial arts. And while I was there, I was able to develop a system called the Oro Oko, which is the baboon. I used to go at the end and during the afternoons to the zoo area. The school was shut down during the day, and from 1 to about 4 o'clock, everything was shut down quiet. So I would go to the zoo that had different animals in their live habitat, crocodiles, they had warthogs, and they had this deep pit of the baboons. And they live in a deep pit with the rocks. Everything looked kind of normal, natural, but they were in captivity. So I would go down up that mountain to the hill every day because it was like maybe a half mile from campus. And I would use what they call classical conditioning. And I'll make a sound. And the baby baboon, which I named Coco, I would bring a piece of fruit from the cafeteria, no matter what it was, orange, banana, apple, whatever, plantain, and I would feed because the other baboon would take it from us. So I would always try to make sure that the baby Coco would get it. So finally, I went to the back where the trainer would feed, would come in. There was a bar, and I would come to the back and I would say, make that sound. And Coco knew it was me. So she finally, after a few while, come down and she would look at me and take the food off my hand, but had long black claws. So I didn't know they would hurt my hand. So I would pull my hand back and she would catch in there and eat it. Finally, the mother would come out. And the mother, finally, she would come into that little waiting room area and she looked at me and she was know that I wasn't hurting her or nothing, very protected. Finally, the papa came. Now, in the baboons, they were known to have be in hieroglyphics. They were known to be domesticated. They would guard the Egyptian pyramids. They would call the Thors, where thought come from. They're called the Thor, Thorth, Thorth. So I didn't know all that at that time. But I did know that if you stare at a baboon, that was like an act of threat, aggression.
Yes.
So he came into the area and he ran the mother and the baby out. And he came into the gate, looked at me like, I don't know you. I'm communicating with him. And,
right.
and he went through his antics, like he want to get to me. Very ferocious. They have been known to take down lions. So I, lowered my gaze and he settled down. I looked back at him and he went to, so I said, I never heard of the baboon style. I've heard the monkey, the crane, the tiger, the bull, the horse, the cobra, etc. So the butterfly even. So I started mimicking his style. And so therefore I came up with this style. And I've been featured in the Inside Kung Fu magazine at the Kurushu Federation annual event that they've had, and to demonstrate this style of the baboon. Even at the event that you had, the training, I demonstrated that in the class breakout session that we had to some of the youth, people, sisters and brothers, the baboon, the otoboko, very ferocious, low squatting stance, very fluid, where you use your hands and you make the sound of the baboon when to a threat to a person. It puts them in shock when you make that sound like, you go through that sound and they panic, and then you go into your attacks. You sweep in the lower foundation. And so it's very eclectic. It has other styles in it, but it's a very, you mimic, you have to go into the field of that animal. You have to feel his spirit. So yes, sir, that is, then I came back and I went to Los Angeles, and after leaving Pittsburgh, coming back from the motherland, and I started studying under Grandmaster Art Yui Wong, who was the only one in Chinatown, Los Angeles, that would train people of different ethnic groups. And, and matter of fact, our brothers, Steve Muhammad, trained with him as well for a while. So I trained with him, and he elevated my training in the animal forms in Walloon Kung Fu. So Walloon come from the southern province of China. And and he was from Canton, China originally. So he came here, I think, in 1924. So he stayed in Chinatown and he taught many people, Douglas Wong and many other ones. So I stayed with him for a while, and I was teaching at the Mafundi Institute in Watts, which is a world famous institute, which was the first building built after the Watts riots. It was a culture center where many of the celebrities would come. Sister Tyson, what's the lady's name that taught dance, Eartha Kitt,
Mhm.
The silver started out there. So it was a multifaceted cultural center. And I became the Kung Fu teacher there. And that's when I developed working with some. My first student was one leg, matter of fact. He came and asked, could he do art? I said, sure. So I started training with him. He got into the Cobra, taught him how to do the Cobra from the floor. Very effective. Then many other brothers and sisters. I ended up with 500 students. That's when the era of Kung Fu
Awesome.
martial arts were very, very popular. So many of the gangs came together collectively and were my students. And we would go throughout LA, California. We were known for doing demonstrations. Some of the things the brothers would do were very exotic, very different. They were using their creativity. We would go to the mountains, the beaches. They'd never been outside of Watts, but I was able to expand their awareness and their environment and their perception of life. Many of them call me today, thanking me for helping them, to be more exposed and to find themselves. Many of them, even one yesterday, one of the leaders of the Bishop gang told me I was in one of his books he just had out. Yes, sir. Just told me that yesterday. I didn't know.
Wow.
So, but, just like you, brother, and Master Musa, which we're going to talk about later, about the apples and the tree. We'll get into that later. And then from there, I started studying Wing Chun and very effective style, which also originated from Canton, China. So there's a lot of similarities with the Walloon and the Wing Chun system, So I feel very good about a style that I have put together now called Walloon Wing Chun, okay? Because it's
Mhm.
a combination of both. We did transition from both. And I've had some training in jiu-jitsu with the brother from the Arizona Keto Academy. Matter of fact, he was the imam, brother Salim, I think his name was, in Phoenix when I moved to Phoenix. So I love that style. Your style that you get into, the Keto Jiu-Jitsu is very powerful because you learn. I find that you learn so much from the different styles. Matter of fact, at my school in I had 5 schools in Los Angeles at one point, out of leaving funded when it closed down. And one of the schools I had, I used to invite many masters from all over LA, and we shared knowledge, like in the Kali, the Screamer. I learned the Screamer, the history of it, brothers from the area style. At my school, we would spend, my God, at least 6 hours a day sharing on Sundays, particularly sharing each other's knowledge. Each Sunday with different people would have a platform for that hour, 2 hours. So I feel that the martial arts, is what it is. It's eclectic. Yet we put our own nuances into it, and because it is an art. You just can't, like Bruce Lee said once, and a lot of masters deviated from him or didn't feel he was true to the art because he didn't want to be a robot. You have to have the traditional basis, but yet put yourself into it. Be an artist with it, which I think that something that I have feel that I have transferred and transformed to that level as well. So yes, and I'm still learning, brother. I'm
Yes,
still
sir.
learning, still
Yes,
growing. Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Well, let me ask you, in terms of all of the different styles that you've touched, it reminds me of uh, our coming up as well, in the sense that with Grand Professor V, how he studied or came out of Arnis or Screamer, and but he began to go to various styles and pick up various styles, and he even identified that. He said, no, I'm not going for the whole system. He said, I'm going to touch things. He's bringing it in so he can add it to what he has. And it's like a life experience. As I'm listening to you, I'm seeing that, basically it's been guided, so it happens. It's not like you necessarily looked for everything, but you found it on your path. And that's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate that. So how does it, in terms of your thinking, as you're getting this and you're getting something else, tell me the thought that you come up with, and in your mind when you're going into something else, you're not leaving it. Are you leaving something on the side? Just talk to me about that thinking.
Well, there's another style that I studied with the French championship team. I had a chance to study in France with the savate, which is a combination of boxing and kicking, karate kicking, and I trained with the savate team. That was another interesting style. Now, to answer your question, is that there's a concept or a training technique we use in Wing Chun called the Silim Dao. Okay, and there are different aspects of it: the Uji, the flying fingers, and the Quan Q, which is the trapping hands or the bridge. So, and the nickname or of the Silim Dao is called empty thought. So sometimes things will come to me if I'm sparring a student. I will go into the butterfly, or I will go into the bull. I go into the elephant. To keep the opponent all balanced. Go into the baboon, the cobra, and come into my Juma, the Wing Chun stance, or the tiger into the Walloon. So I put them all, even the capoeira, do the OR, the turn, the cartwheel. So all of those come into play how I feel. Depends on the opponent, the time, the circumstances. So I don't say, well, do exactly this. And I tell my students, you have to feel it. I give you those tools, and you practice them. And I'm not going to tell you do this exactly this point, that point, but feel, as long as they're concretized with a strong foundation,
Yes.
And you have the spirit, of training and be true to your art. Because if you don't train, there's an old saying you may know, that don't ever face an enemy. And your enemy is yourself. You can be your number one enemy, So if you don't train, then you thinking, oh, I had that. But when it's time come to use that, you don't have the spirit, your art, that spirit will leave you hanging on the limb. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I want to, let's go into, how did you connect, or what did you know of Dr. Musa Muhammad, Moses Powell?
Well, first of all, brother, in a tree, there are different rings in a tree. You can tell the longevity of a tree by the rings in it, okay? Yes. So if a tree branches off and bears fruit, then it also will, at a period of time, develop rings, and the rings can exhibit, for me, 5 years, 10 years, whatever denotes in that particular tree. So Master Musa, and I don't say master to him because he created a grandmaster in you, okay? So I call him great grandmaster. He can't be just master. If you a grandmaster, he has to be those rings and the fruit that he bear.
That's right.
I call him great grandmaster, and another 10 years from now, if you become great grandmaster, then he's great grandmaster.
Yes, sir. Yes, so, sir.
I got to give that brother that props. Now he and I, when I first met him, it was in 1972. I took some of my students from Burundi, and he was at the Long Beach Auditorium, and they put the microphone on the floor. Oh my God. And he did the one finger roll, backwards, forward, sideways, etc. And I, man, you couldn't hear a pin. The place was quiet. You couldn't hear a pin fall. I'm sitting on the front row now. The microphone was on the mat there. And I'm like, whoa. I was so impressed. I had to meet and talk to him like I did Bruce Lee at the end of the Carterburn Theater in 1968 when I first met Bruce. I said, this guy is the most powerful man. At that time, I think he was 220, 230, 240, something like that. And he filled out his uniform and he filled out the hakama. And man, he was flowing like water. And he was all the elements in one. He was water, earth, fire, metal, and wood. He was all of the elements, okay? So, and I looked at that, I said, God, look at this. So I had to meet him and give him his props, brother. And then there were several times that we would communicate by phone. He gave me his number. So one time he came to, and he was so humble. Oh my God, man, humility of this brother, and he was so unassuming. If you saw him walking down the sidewalk one day in a shirt and pair of pants, a khakis or something, with glasses or something on, you would think, oh, this is a little chunky, this chubby guy, man, he was unassuming, but you touch him wrong. I remember one time when the minister came to speak in Los Angeles at the forum, and Musa was there. Great Grandmaster Musa was there, and of course he wasn't hung up on titles, but I got to give him his props, okay, because he was that pure, you know. So we had to secure the place. We went through every chair. I forgot how many thousands of people this forum was housed. We went up into the rafters where there was a beam. We walked across. We were all up in there looking for any type of devices. We combed the place like a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything was safe for the leader. So afterwards, you know, we came out. The minister, he and I got word. The minister was running a little late, and he would come down to a sally port from the street, which was a little drive down into the bottom basement of the forum. Okay, from the west side of the forum, I believe, yes. And so Pastor Moose and I was standing up on the hill on the side there at this drive. We knew what was happening. And our brother Khalid, the minister at that time, he came out. He said, you two, the baddest man on the planet, y'all standing out here, y'all need to be inside so-and-so. We looked at each other like, man, what's wrong with him, man? We on point, we on post, we know what we're doing. You know, we're shooting the breeze, but we said, okay, so Brother Khalid went on back inside, he was disgusted, you know. So finally, we knew what we were doing, but we were enjoying each other's spirit. Man, that brother was so beautiful, man. As a matter of fact, his pictures on my wall here in my studio, and pictures of you too. You know, the fruit from the tree. So he is all that and some. So again, I would like to denote that yes, sir, your grandmaster, a beautiful fruit from the tree, and there are many, many, many fruits that he has brought along upon his path and continues to bear fruit. So he can't be just master.
Yes.
He's great grandmaster. And
yes.
Another 5 to 10 years of that ring multiplied, he's great grandmaster and beyond. So yes, sir, brother, he is a God in my heart. He still has my heart, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. That's beautiful. Beautiful. I want you to, you know, everybody doesn't know that you've been on television and whatnot. I mean, there was a show called That's Incredible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell us.
I had an agent who was Jim Bridges, who was Todd Bridges' dad at that time. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to have hooked me up to go meet with the people at the studios. So he never did come around. So I went to the studio myself. I said, I'm waiting this guy. He's dragging his feet. So I went on to the studios and talked to the people. They said, oh, we want to see that act, you know? So they asked me, I was using nunchucks, which was a popular weapon at that time. And they wanted to see what I can do with it. So I was able to take a cup off of the head of the cubicle, their little side cubicle in his office there. And I was able to do it, the nunchucks. And this guy said, well, I'm gonna hold his pencil up. Can you do it? I did all that. So anyway, they said, well, would you come on the show? So I said, fine. So they asked me, what could I do? I said, well, I can do it blindfolded. Now, how I developed doing that blindfolded was that I had a lemon tree in my backyard in LA, and I had a pool. And when I come home from teaching, I would go to the pool and practice hitting these wild lemons, you know, with the nunchucks with my eyes closed. And I was able to just pluck them off with the nunchucks at will. And because the nunchucks, as you know, is any weapon, is an extension of the arm and the hand, and you get to know the dynamics and the length and the measurements just by feel of it. So as a blind person would feel the period of time, they know the distance. So I was able to do that at will. So I started doing it with students, you know, who trusted me. And then I was told to come to show if I could do it off of somebody's head and out of their teeth. And I was able to take the nunchucks blindfold and take the apple off of one of my students' head and out of her teeth with the apple. And then I was able to extinguish some flames. They wanted me to do something I'd never done before, but they wanted me to extinguish some candles, you know, 3 different candles, different levels. And I just 3 swipes and they would extinguish the flame of the candles. And another thing I did, they had some light bulbs set up on a big bar across and light bulbs, and they wanted me to take out the light bulbs, which I, no problem. So I was able to take them out, and that was with my eyes open with that. So I was able to take them out in no will. And then at the end, one of my students who had a watermelon, I was able to use the three-sectional staff or the cudgel, and I was able to work it around and cut the watermelon in half. So for what they paid me, that was some of the easiest money I ever made in my life.
Beautiful,
So that
beautiful.
was fun. So that was fun. However, I was able to upgrade that to using the sword to taking the apple off of someone's head out of the teeth. I performed for President Obama's first inauguration in DC at an event that they had a gathering the weekend before his inauguration in DC, and I was invited to perform. And there I was blindfolded and I used a Sendo sword to cut the apple off of my wife's head at that time, and the apple out of her teeth. She had a cucumber in her right hand and a honeydew melon in her left hand. And with 4 strikes, I cut them off in half without cutting her hand. And that comes from practice and learning the exact moment, place, and time to cut the strike and leave it without cutting through. So all that's scientific, and it takes practice. I wouldn't advise anybody to just think they can go do that, because we have to practice. Yes, sir.
Well, I gotta say that I remember, what was it? I believe it would have been 1981, Rebirth of a Nation. And
Yes,
we demonstrated, Doc and I, and well, I was with him, of course, and you,
yes, sir.
you demonstrated
Yes, sir.
and did all of the things that you just mentioned in terms of cutting the melon or the watermelon or whatever it was, knocking, striking the apple off of the head and out of the mouth, and there was also, Grandmaster, there was also where you caused or hypnotized, if you will, or you can describe what it was, where you made the brother's body stiffen out and was on the edge of a chair at the shoulder, or the neck, and the feet.
Yes, sir.
Tell me
Yes, sir.
about that.
Actually, it was Brother Earl Muhammad, who was a hypnotist. He worked with me on that.
Okay.
He hypnotized these 2 brothers. He was a hypnotist, which he was commissioned by the messenger at one point back in the early 60s. Matter of fact, bless his soul, he has transitioned as well. But he has done various hypnotist events there at Mos Mariam, him and Brother Richard. They would travel together, and they were traveling hypnotists. So, but they stretched the 2 brothers, one in front and one to the back, and brothers had their shirts off, and they had a melon across their chest. And there was a brother standing to the side, which I was able, the young brother, cut the apple off his head, out of his teeth. Then I turned one way and sliced the melon off the brother's bare chest, and the other brother, and then they flipped over the other brother.
Right.
Came into split. Yes, sir. So yeah, a little drama.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yes, sir.
And yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did I ever send you that? I have to look for it again, but I have that on.
Oh, yes, sir. I would love to see that. I have pictures of it.
Wow.
But the video of it. Another brother promised that video. Brother Deshane. I haven't seen him lately, but he said he had a copy. So, no rush, beloved. Whatever, inshallah.
Well, I'm saying it in public, so I'm absolutely going after it now. I definitely have to get that to you by Allah's grace and permission. So I mean, this is excellent, excellent. So you are. Tell me about now. Tell me about what's going on at this time, and there's something else that I want to talk to you about. I mean, you're a young 72-year-old for sure, and what is the thought, or what would you like to say to those who have some age, that are like at your age, but not at your level of conditioning and thought? what would you like to say to them?
Well, first of all, I would like to say before you start any regiment, okay, you have to become mentally focused that you're going to start at a gradual pace. Don't rush into it because your body can resist it, okay? And I work with a lot of seniors, and I'm true to this myself, in giving them ways of stretching, which is very important, and deep breathing before they start stretching. Number one, I'm going to show you just a couple of ways if I can, sitting, because
Yes.
it doesn't mean you got to go in any special place. Some days in the mornings, I'm having my coffee or my tea or my juice or whatever. I'm sitting at the table doing my stretching. My wife, she, oh, okay, she's used to it now. But I start off like here, take a deep breath, and I let out the oxygen, let out the fire, bring in the water, and I let it out, and I bring in, then I push it out, then I rotate, deep breathing the water, and I let it out. Then, at night, your body is compressed. You got 656 muscles in your body, and you got 208 bones in the body, and we don't use all of them. So I do a little circulation routine, and it will take about 3 minutes in the morning, which is better than a cup of coffee. It sparks my day up. So one of the things I do also, I do the rotation of the neck. Okay, I count in Arabic, Chinese, or Japanese 5 times one way. Then I go back the other way, this way here. Just relax, make a complete circle. And then I do what we call the shoulder roll. I lift my shoulder, make a complete circle. Don't jerk, because they're sitting in a socket. Oh man, it's already releasing endorphins in my body already. I do that, and then I do the reverse. I do maybe 8 to 10 of those. Okay, all right. All right. After that, then I do what we call grab the monkey by the tail. Okay, I grab my elbow like so, and I turn 180 degrees and pull myself around and hold it for about 8 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds. And then I grab the elbow again. And as I'm doing that, my other hand is working my joints to my fingers, like so. I'm making my fingers here, working those joints, right, while I'm around. Here, hand around, turning around, looking. Then I'll come back. Okay, then after I do that, now, let me say this, there's 2 ways of people stretch. Number one is called ballistic stretch, where people do that. That's not good because it can train the muscles to become spastic and can create your muscles and your blood become spastic. That's why people get charley horses at night. Okay, so you got to train the muscle to become equal with the flow and the elasticity of the muscles. It's called static stretch, where you hold it for 10 to 15 seconds. And the other way, instead of stretching, which old school, we used to do that back in the day, push and think we're doing it, but that's injuring the body. Kinesiologists and sports medicine doctors realize those multi-million-dollar athletes were getting injured in charter boards because stretching was being done wrong. Then we go from this stretch, we do what we call sunrise, sunset. We make the pyramid or the diamond, and we go up. This is called sunrise. And you take a deep breath, and you hold this, and you arch your back, and then we do what we call sunset, where you go down, all the way down, bend your back, your chin to your chest. And we do this a couple of times and back up to sunrise. And then we do what we call the rainbow. Go to your right side or your left side, okay? Looking over, elbow straight up. And then we go to the other side, the rainbow, here, okay? Then we go back up. And then we do another, we can do it more than once. Then we do call a rooster crow, where your shoulders go back and your chin go up, looking straight up. You inhale and exhale, relax. Okay. And then we do that a couple of times. Then we pulling the fish out the water, where this is called the line. And you straighten your leg out and you curl your toe back to you, and it stretches the calf muscles. And you stretch, this arm is up in the air, and you're stretching the calf, and you're pulling the fish out the water, and then you let go with your chin down, and you can go a little further and hold it. Then you do the other side, line up, grab the fish, hook the fish with your toe, and stretch down with the chin down, and then you back up, take another deep breath, because you're expending a lot of muscles, oxygen out the body. Inhale, and then push out, rotate. It's called Musa. You pull inhale, and you exhale. Man, that itself, when I do that in the mornings, I'm ready to go, man. This morning I did, and I got up and got to work, cutting hedges in my yard and doing a lot of things, man. That motivates and stimulates my body. See, you awaken those endorphins, your chakras, as we say, and in yoga, zones where energy, negative energy, house itself and can cause stress in the body. So we have to release those endorphins every morning. I recommend that. Matter of fact, brother Wahid recommended, told me, he said, I'm gonna be your first student, brother. We got to get this going because we seniors need that. Yes, sir, brother. Matter of fact, I want to talk about my sister Flojo when we get a chance. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Sir, I want to talk about her. And I want to say that in self-defense for the seniors, what brought me to talking to you even more so, the minister, at your last beautiful dynamic training session that you have each one, brother. And inshallah, I'm going to be at the one next year. I promise you that, brother. I'm making the world announcement. Yes, sir. I will be there to help and do what I can at your disposal. But the cane, a lot of us are relying on that, some of us, and the cane is used by the Korean police forces. It's a very powerful weapon. Some of it had to need that third leg. And once you learn to be balanced, use that cane, it becomes very effective. Now, I also teach vital points. You have, teacher trainers, there was 76 spots in the body where you can hit a person and can temporarily paralyze them. And have 36 spots where you can permanently paralyze a person. And there's 24 spots in the body, you hit them at a certain angle, can permanently paralyze a person. So I teach certain pressure points, where to strike, where to hit, not just hitting anywhere. You have to know where to hit, that angle, hit into the cluster of nerves, hit into the heart meridians, hit into the kidneys meridians, and hit into the various spots which can stun a person. Our occipital nerves in the back to strike to cause a shock, paralyzation. So the cane is a very effective weapon. Hooking, grabbing, striking between the legs, twisting the person's body to destroy their structure, their foundation, hitting to the knees, to the various meniscus, to the tendons, to the cluster nerves along the side of the tibia, the muscle of the calf, hitting to to the eyes, to the solar plexus. So the cane is something that I teach, and the minister made that call to bring something to the table for the seniors. Yes. So I said, well, I've been training this, and we get us to a certain age, we can't hit the floor like we used to, however, we're not like you, so used to it, you can hit it forever, and so we work with that, and I teach many of the seniors, and they feel that they develop a certain amount of confidence. As people get older, they don't want to resort back to that child and lose their confidence and their belief in themselves. So yes, if they resort to a cane, they can be even more effective walking the streets, because our elderly are vulnerable, even more so this day and time, to the culprits that's out there. So that's something that I like to bring to the table. There was I don't know if you remember the history of the drunken man style. You know how it came about?
No, please tell me.
The drunken man style came about when all of the guys who got paid in China, who were leaving the bars or leaving their home, and they were a little inebriated walking, they were robbed by the youth, okay? And they were taken advantage of, took their hard-earned monies and injured them. So the monks heard about this, and they came down from the mountains, and they started acting like they was inebriated and moving, and as it would come, the couple would come, they would strike out at them as if they were still inebriated, blocking it, hitting them and injuring them, taking them out, boom. And they were still acting as if they was inebriated. So they got to the point where these guys, they left them alone. So that solved that problem, So we have to develop things, ways to amend this aggression on our elderly. They get one check a month, most of them, and people are timing when they're getting it, and they have to have ways. We don't believe in carrying guns. However, we have to have some ways to defend ourselves. And there's a style also I studied from the Ethiopians called tebiye or teska, okay, which is the style that they use the head to headbutt. That's style I used to breaking bricks with. I used to, not anymore, but breaking bricks, which I do have boards. I do now break the boards, but using that head to break through, to hit certain areas of the person's body. They use that in Ethiopia during the Mussolini times in the war when Haile Selassie was invaded by not the Romans, but the Italians. Okay, so they use that style. And a friend of mine who's Ethiopia, Daniel Inafu, shared that style with me. It's called Tebi, a test for close range. So, and I teach seniors, you can't do a lot of so many things, but you have weapons for close range uses. The elbow, okay, the chair pie, the headbutt, the knee, and of course, striking to very various special spots. So you don't have to stand there. You can walk away if you have to, or use your cane to finish them off. But there are ways that seniors can feel a little bit more confident in this society. Yes, sir.
That's awesome. What we intend to do, Grandmaster, is to actually open that opportunity for you and for our elders to come together, and we're going to draw them into a class, a virtual class, so that all around the country we'll be able to begin that process and work with our elders. And I definitely would like you to be a huge part of that.
Praise is due to Allah. And then there also like to say that there's a brother out of Winston-Salem here in North Carolina. Good friend of mine, good brother. We talk all the time. His name Brother John Muhammad. He has what is called an Orbit Walk. And that's on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and look up Orbit, Orbit, walk, W-A-L-K. And it's about a minute and 32 seconds where he's on a treadmill. And this brother is in his 70s as well. And he's on a treadmill at fast speed, walking heel toe, spinning sideways, walking gradually, because walking is so important, how to walk. And that's something we teach seniors too, how to walk heel toe. There's a walk that the Chinese use called Asiatic jog, where they use heel toe. You have all of your 296 nerves ends in the bottom of your feet from your organs. So if you heel toe walk and make that gradual walk, the minister does that walk naturally, if you notice. He has an elegant, where you can't even see him bouncing. He has that stride. So it's natural in him. So that walk is something that we want to bring to the table to our seniors, how to use that, which helps regulate even your internal system and your balance and your structure. Yes, sir. Beautiful. So this brother name is John Muhammad, and you look up Orbit Walk on YouTube. So, well,
I will do that, and I'm sure everyone else will take the opportunity to do that as well. Let's go into in this last portion. Let's go into your sister. Are you saying your sister is Flojo?
That was my sister, brother. Yes, sir.
Wow. Please tell us about her and you.
Man, well, when she was 11 years old, I moved from Pittsburgh to LA. That's when I moved there, my final move there. And she joined the Jackie Orange Track Club, and every Saturday she would go out because she would, matter of fact, I'm just finishing a book about her. Just finishing it up. Matter of fact, it's at the print now. So I'll be marketing that real soon, let you know about it when it comes out. She was very eclectic, even her early age. She used to ride the unicycle to school with a pet boa constrictor around her neck.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yeah, she was naturally gifted in various ways of braiding hair at that time. Some of my celebrity friends, she would go to their house and she would braid their hair. Didn't have any training. She would do that and made her extra money. Of course, my mom got upset because she would come home later at night, took longer to she out, but she came home with the Dutchins and she was okay with that. But when I left the house, and matter of fact, what we used to do, we used to race down the streets on 85th Street off of Manchester in Watts. Every time it would rain, the steam would come up and all of us would go out and we would race. And I used to tell her, girl, you never beat me as long as you live. I don't care what. And I believe that. So we used to race, and she had that determination look in her eye, like, I'm gonna get you. Girl, you never. So I really put that on her. But I used to teach her the martial arts, the confidence, and she would come out to my car when I pull up at the house, and we would talk for hours. I would give her motivation talk, and etc. So when we were in, matter of fact, when she came back from um, the Olympics and going to go back to Japan, she asked me to go with her, which I did. It was over there for a good month and a half
Mm.
throughout, and she was welcome. And they called her the Cleopatra, the return of Cleopatra. Everybody welcomed her. She was so classy. She didn't curse. She believed in God. And what brought her to the to get her goal was I told her about the messenger's diet. I wrote an article in the Final Call a few years ago about that. And I told her about you can't eat pork and embrace these people around the world and expect to be a champion. I took her off the diet of pork and showed her about the messenger's diet. She thanked me for that. Took me, oh man, and I have articles where she thanked me and she autographed to be in her biggest support and guiding her in the path of becoming who she is. Thank praise is due to Allah.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's something that was very instrumental in getting her to come off that pork. And so she and I were the closest out of 11 of us. I'm the oldest of all. Okay. And I was raised on the East Coast with my grandparents pretty much. And my mother was in LA, so I was kind of bi-coastal pretty much. And she and I became the closest out of all 11 of us. And so, but yeah, that was my baby sister. And there was so much in my book that I would tell about her. One thing I want to say is that her grace, her class, my mother told all of my sisters to carry yourself always as a lady. And I have in my book, I stated that um, she opened up a charm school, she will have a waiting list of 20 years out, and that she will have queens and princes around the world will envy her charm. Yes, sir. And also the cover of the book, at the beginning, you see the watchtowers, and then there's a Japanese shrine, and it says across from the far west to the far east. It's not what's within. I mean, it's not. No, no. Oh, yeah. From the east to the far west. From what's within brings out. No, from without brings out from what's within. Sort of phrasing in a way. But anyway, it's not where you're from, but it's from what's within that counts.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and also, I just want to say this that I have that book coming out, and also I wanted to share this with you. I'm working on and complete it, and also have a movie industry that's looking for investors right now. A movie called Cradle of the Legend,
Mm.
which I will be co-starring in along with a producer and a director and a brother who's from the motherland, who's like a Bruce Lee there. And he himself, and I adopted him about 3 years ago as a surrogate son because his parents passed. So we've been working on this script. Suddenly we got it completed. We have got a production company who's merging with Tyler Perry Industry. And I'm making an announcement now that this project is well on its way. I met with my lawyer yesterday, and I would like to have you to become part of this at some point, and some of your baby apples from the tree to be part of it. There's going to be some fight scenes in the motherland and here in the States. So I'm making that open to you, which I was going to share with you last night when we talked. So that's
Thank
something
you.
that's in the making.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be just really right here with you. That's why when I talked to you, it was no hesitation. I absolutely wanted to bring you on, and this is not going to be the last time because I know that there's so much more. In fact, I do, before we go, I never asked the question, when did Islam come in?
My goodness, brother, good question. Islam was really with me in 1964. My grandfather and my brother, who was studying at Johnson C. Smith, came home and had a tape of Malcolm. And we were sitting out in the yard in these iron chairs and listening. And my grandfather said, boy, if I were young, I would join up with that guy. So it hit me right then. And my mind got the wheel of turning. He talked about we don't have a flag of our own, but now we do, the crescent. So that's when it really first hit me. But when I joined the nation, when I got my letter, and I have copies of it now, letter of acceptance from the messenger, was in 1972. Actually 71, then 72, I was accepted. And I joined the mosque then. Hutpole came right on in the ranks, brother, with the fish program, the finally Muhammad Speaks. And then when it fell, and I saw when it fell, my God, it was the most painful thing,
Yes.
But when I got to the minister, I met him in 1977 at the B and Duke Auditorium in Northbound Central University. I went backstage and I said, brother minister, I would love to talk to you. So he said, okay, brother, here's my phone number. Now he had a little natural little goatee. He was leaving Wallace, but he was waving on his own, you know? So when he left, the university police put him in a van to take him down to the Brownstone Hotel, downtown Durham. I told my student, let's go. We got to follow. They don't know who they got in the car with. We got to follow this guy and make sure they get him safely. So we followed him and made sure he got out, went into the room. Well, actually, we saw him get it. He didn't know we were behind him. I'm sure he did. But I saw him get out, went up the steps, went to the elevator, had a little briefcase, went on to his room. The next day I called Chicago and we talked regularly, brother. You know, and one day he said, brother, I'm going to bring the final call out of my basement. And I was a little waving because I'm like, why not keep the Muhammad State with two hands greeting? He said, no, brother, the messenger told me, so I stood down. When he said that has for that trumpet, the final call. And there's one thing I want to say too. There's one time we were talking. You might have heard him say about the time some neighbors threw a rock through his window and almost hit. Yeah, well, brother, I called him that day and he told me what had happened. I got to packing and said, brother, I'm on my way to Chicago. I'm gonna stand post in front of his house on the end of the block. I was coming, brother. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, the minister told me to stand down. We got this, brother.
Yes, sir.
So I stood down. So, yes, sir, brother. I had to, he gave the order, so I had to stand down. But yes, sir, brother. And I thank you for being there, securing him, brother, and all that you do, brother. I can't thank you enough, sir, for all that you and the brothers doing, securing our leader, brother. Love you, brother.
Love you too, sir.
More than you can imagine.
Man, may Allah continue to bless you and keep you strong and healthy so that you can continue to help our people as you have been doing. Thank you. And, you know, you're again an example, definitely for me, but for so many others, you are an example. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank Allah. Anything I can do, I'm here, brother. Here for
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, listen, family, you have it again. I had the opportunity to walk with a master here today, and you had the opportunity to also walk with him. And this is something that we have to thank all of those masters that have given their time, their energy, their sweat, their blood to developing themselves, not just for themselves, but to help somebody else. I want to thank you all for joining us and being with us and walking this path with us again through another episode of Walking with the Master. Make sure you subscribe to the official Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad YouTube channel, and make sure that you constantly look and see what we got going on so that you can become better and better and better. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great day. Us.
Every student of a master here today, you reflect your master teacher. You want to walk like him. You want to talk like her. But you start by having an object in front of you that you admire.